My name is Carina Gardner, and I'm what you would call a practical designer. If you're ready to create a life that you love, become an incredible force for good, and generate income while pursuing your dreams, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Make and Design. In the early 2000s, the music industry was struggling with piracy, and I completely remember this. I'm sure many of you remember all the things going on during that time. And traditional CD sales were in the decline, okay? Which is funny because literally last week my husband bought a CD, and someone on my team, one of my 20-year-olds on my team, was like, wait, people buy CDs and DVDs? And I was like, we still do. Anyway, Jobs saw an opportunity not just to create a new music device, but to change the way people consumed music altogether. While many companies were focused on hardware or software separately, Jobs' vision was to seamlessly integrate both into a simple, beautiful product that would give people access to thousands of songs in their pocket. And he wasn't the first to attempt digital music players, but his approach was different. It was design, marketing, and user experience. And I think that's something that as designers, we should be really thinking about, okay? So he launched the iPod in 2001, which was an absolute breakthrough. And the real business genius was how Jobs tied it to iTunes, creating a complete ecosystem that transformed how music was purchased and consumed. The iTunes store allowed users to legally buy individual songs for 99 cents, and Jobs made sure to negotiate favorable deals with record labels to get their catalogs onto the platform. By focusing not only on the product design, but also the user experience and industry relationships, Jobs created a revenue stream that benefited both consumers and music companies. This combination of bold creativity in product design and shrewd business sense to create a new market ecosystem exemplifies Jobs' genius. The iPod wasn't just a cool gadget, it was the foundation of a new digital economy for music, one that set the stage for Apple's future successes with the iPhone and beyond. And I think this is really important. We can learn a lot of lessons from Steve Jobs here. I mean, I think there are a lot of lessons generally that we can learn from Steve Jobs, but I think this specific example is a really good one. He understood that both creative innovation and strategic business decisions would allow him to revolutionize industries while building financial success for his company. And at the end of the day, what are we always talking about? Design. We're talking about creative innovation and strategic business. And those two things married together really complement each other in the best way possible. When we only focus on the product or the creative innovation, or in our case, design products, right, then we're missing something. But when we really pair that with thinking about the business aspects of things, where we're going to place the designs, how we're going to sell it, what are the previews going to look like, what is the value behind it, why would someone buy this? That's when these two things merge together to create something really, really beautiful. Now, there are a couple of things here that I pulled from this story that really resonated with me. The first is that I have been talking quite a bit about this inside scoop thing. I've been doing it in Design Suite, and I now am doing it a little bit more on this podcast, and definitely in the Design Your Life podcast, since that is our inside scoop podcast. And what I am realizing is just like this inside scoop thing goes way further than I realized, because Jobs spending all this time talking to labels, building relationships with them, was able to get them onto these platforms, his platform, in order to make money from it. And I think that's really interesting because once again, it ends up being about relationships. People ask me all the time, is AI going to take over the industry? Are we worried for design? And the answer is no, because the one thing AI hasn't done very well is help us build relationships. And that is a human to human experience. And this whole inside scoop really usually happens from building experience and building relationships. And I think that's a really interesting thing that can't be taken away, okay? The second thing that I thought was interesting is that Jobs didn't think about creating something that would be a little bit better. He went all the way over and was like, I'm going to create something entirely new. And I do think that really good innovators are thinking about how not that they're going to improve, but they're going to think of something entirely new. And I think this is a very fascinating way to think about iTunes. There really wasn't anything like it before. And many of us were around before it came into being, and we bought CDs. I have a huge box of old CDs still, right? And so the ability to now download music, hold on to it forever, with a CD not breaking, CDs scratch and all sorts of things happen to them, is a really fascinating idea. Okay. So he definitely understood creative innovation and strategic business decisions. And it really allowed him to revolutionize the industry and, secondly, build financial success for his company. I also want to point out something here that's really interesting, and that is timing. I've been reading quite a bit about timing and how timing is a really important piece of the business. And I do think at some point I'm probably going to talk about that in another podcast, but just keep this in the back of your head. Timing is really important, okay? So in relation to this, I was thinking about how I was listening to a podcast where someone was talking about how there are 3 types of entrepreneurs. There are people who are excellent at sales, the people who build a business and they're just good at selling. Then there are people who are excellent at marketing. So they know how to build a brand, they understand the marketing aspects, and that's what they're really good at. And then there are people who are good at building a product, really good at building a product. And one of the things that I recognized, especially when I heard that, is that those of us here in the artistic and design world, we're mostly good at building product. Usually we're not as good at marketing and we're not as good at sales. I know that's the case for me. Maybe you're the exception to the rule, but I'm quite good at making product. In fact, when I created the Design Suite program, one of the hardest things I had was sales and marketing, because what did I do? I focused on making an excellent product. I wanted to have really good coursework in it. I wanted to have weekly meetings. I wanted to have conferences. I wanted to give so much information that my people would be in great shape, right? And I wanted them to have the inside scoop. And so I really focused on product less than sales. And I think even now, sometimes I really do forsake trying to sell what we've got for making sure our product is good. We are continually tweaking it and making sure it's great. And even with the university, same thing there. We're so focused on making sure the coursework is good, making sure the product we're delivering is excellent, that sometimes it forsakes sales and marketing. It sometimes happens. We just tend to have strengths in the areas that we know very, very well. So one of the things I started thinking about is, how do you actually know if you're a business, or if you're listening here, if you're actually a design business? And so here are some of the, I won't say secrets, but a little bit the secrets of knowing if you're actually to the part where you're actually a design business or any kind of business. But the examples I'm going to give you are from my design businesses, okay? So here were some of the things I've done in the past that helped me see if I was a business, not just a designer. And when you recognize that you've made that shift, you're not just a designer, you are a business owner, a design business owner, then that is when things kind of change. You start thinking really, really productively about the products you're creating, because you want them to be super functional. Okay. So the first thing was I created new shops when I saw that one of my shops was not doing well. So that's a marketing and strategic position to have, right? So if I have a shop and I see that it's declining in sales, and I'm not talking about revenue over the course of a year, because we have seasonality. I'm talking about in general, I would make sure that I started researching and finding new shops that I could go into, okay? The second thing I did was I would change product type when I saw a product was no longer producing the kind of money that it used to, okay? So not just shops, but I was paying attention also to the product type, okay? So product type means I moved from digital scrapbooking to SVGs. And I actually did make that change. When digital scrapbooking started going down, I moved on into SVGs, okay? Number 3 is I paid attention to the types of products that I was making that had good results. Okay. So results matter. And a lot of times when we're creation mode, at least for me anyway, when I'm in creation mode, very often I'm not looking at results. I'm looking at how good, how beautiful, how functional my design work is. But if I can spend a day of my week in that business mindset, then what am I doing? I'm checking and paying attention to what kind of sales are they having? Like, what are the results? Who's buying them? Paying attention to my reviews, like all the things that we consider the sales or the marketing side of our businesses. And that's how when I realized these are the things I really started doing on a weekly basis in my business, I realized I was really a business. I wasn't just a designer. And I think there is a ton of power in that, because once you start recognizing yourself as a design business owner, there is a lot of power in that, because then you start taking on activities that aren't just design, but are for your business. There are marketing activities that you can do. There are strategic activities you can do that will make your results better, which in turn makes you more money, which as a designer, that's really what we're trying to do, right? Like, we're just trying to make money. It's part of what we're doing as a creative, right? That's where the fun part, the creative part, the second part, which is to make money doing the creative part, right? So we can make more money, which means we can create more artwork, right? This is a cyclical thing that we're all trying to work towards. And I think this story about Steve Jobs is so good, because I want you to start thinking about how you can own your own ecosystem. How can you transform the world that you're in as a designer? What can you bring to it that's special, new, and innovative? And at the beginning, you might be like, I just don't know, Carina. I don't know what those things are. That's okay. At the beginning, we're learning, we're educating ourselves, we're in programs, we're growing, we're taking coursework, right? But then as we move forward, then we should be thinking about, what are all the things I'm learning here, and what special thing can I bring to this industry? And that's where some of the magic happens. And it does take a little bit, because I'm going to tell you, I mean, for 3 or 4 years as I was in it, I was like, I still was having trouble finding my place in the design world. Like, what am I doing that's special? It takes time, you guys. And this whole idea that it happens overnight or magically you can come up with it first thing is silly. We like, it just doesn't happen that way, you guys. We have to have experiences, and then we slowly and surely figure out and create conclusions that force us to create new original products, create more functional products, and get the results that we need. And you're going to get there. You just have to put the time and energy into it.
Did you know you have access to more free design content, die cut files, and sewing patterns? Join our exclusive VIP group for free by going to designsweetcourses.com/free.